tonight we're going to discuss Deshaun Watson's comments about Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa, and I'm going to tell y'all why he doesn't even have any grounds to be mentioning their names right now. On top of that, we are going to discuss the NFL honors. Were Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa snubbed? You know we're going to dive into that. Also, we're going to talk a little Derrick Henry. And, you're not going to want to miss the opening because I'm going to have some nuggets for you in that opening sequence. So until then, smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field on the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for the touchdown again!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. Appreciate all y'all coming through on this Friday evening. As you come in, and do me the favor, smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Listen, we're going to play the clip. Y'all are going to see what Watson said. We're going to play the full clip, not the little portion that's been going around. Full clip. And, we got a lot to talk about, man. We're going to play a clip from Derrick Henry where it seems like he's kind of, laying the groundwork and the foundation that he wants to be a Dolphin a little bit in the most oddest way, but okay. And then, we're going to I want to talk about the awards last night because I think there's a ton to say. I saw what Tom Brady said. If you listen to what Tom Brady was saying, Tom Brady was kind of more talking from a coaching standpoint, right? So I don't really, and Tom Brady didn't talk about anyone specifically at all, but if you listen to what Tom Brady was saying, people are trying to misinterpret it that he's putting it on quarterbacks. When you actually listen to him, he's talking about coaching. Tom Brady is clearly talking about coaching. That clip that's going around right now, he's talking about, quarterbacks and why they need to know what they do. And if you listen to him, he's talking about coaching. But before we get into all that, right? Super Bowl week, everyone's in Vegas. And I'm not going to drop names, but I'm going to give y'all some info here, right? Y'all are going to get it all together. It's not going to go to the Patreon first because it's not earth-shattering. It's something we've all discussed, and it's something that I want to talk about. So I have someone who's helped me produce the show throughout the last couple of years. He's not my producer, but he's helped me. He knows who he is. He has been a television producer and a documentary producer as well, et cetera, et cetera. Someone, I go to for advice with certain things. And anyways, right now he is in Las Vegas. All right. He does media work. He did media work when the NHL All-Star Game was in Vegas and they were interviewing players. And he's doing media work right now that the Super Bowl is in Vegas, meeting a lot of players, ran into Dan Marino yesterday, et cetera, et cetera. But he had a conversation today with an NFL legend and someone who is around in the 90s. All right, they're not a Dolphin. They're from an NFC team. I'll say that. I'm not allowed to say the name. They had an off-the-record type of conversation. And first thing, how this led to this was I was asking him, I was saying, hey, what's the vibe out there about Miami right now? Like, what are people saying? What's going on, right? And he said to me, the Dolphins, McDaniel and Tua, they're getting very little respect out here. He said, general attitude, he said, is that until they earn it by winning in December, nobody is taking them serious yet. And this is what he said after talking to several on-air hosts, He said that they're not even looking to really talk Dolphins on air right now. And some of those people are your usual Tua haters. Some of them are also people that expected the Dolphins to do more, that they were hyping up the Dolphins this year. Anyways, he was talking to an NFL legend today, and, it wasn't an interview. They were talking off the record, and this was just this perspective from, and this is a player who's won Super Bowls, okay? And, this person was just basically saying that they don't see the heart and the will to win in December from the whole roster, not one player, not one person, and his standpoint was he basically thinks they don't want it bad enough. And this is what else that he said that kind of resonated. He said he didn't think they were mentally tough enough yet. And, they're going to have to earn every ounce of respect this year, it sounds like. And my buddy even told me, he's like, I know, people aren't going to want to hear this. And, I said, you know what? I'm going to tell the people this. Why? Because people have been, even the people who, whether you support Tua or don't, whether you support McDaniel or don't, whether you support the current regime or don't, whether you support Tyreek Hill or don't, doesn't matter who you support on this team, whether it's one player or all 53, and it should be all 53 for all of you out there. Just like you shouldn't be against one player, you should be supporting all 53. But people out here, they wake up, their eyes open, and they think about Tua. They think about Tua more than Tua's own wife. It's crazy. But they got the audacity to call other people Tuaneers when they're the real ones. So anyways, I digress. It don't matter what side of the fence you're on with any player, this team, whatever. That's a question hey, look at me. I've done a show asking, should they add Derrick Henry to start making them more physical, to start bringing in the physical culture? One of the reasons why I've said you can't let Robert Hunt walk. He's obviously your most physical, and he's your best mauling interior offensive lineman. You just can't let that walk out. You just can't let that trot out. That's not smart business. And, this is something that's being asked privately around the league. So, listen. And Scotty says, so went from fraud narrative to soft narrative. Well, I mean, I never bought on the fraud narrative. The soft narrative, I mean, you kind of saw it, brother. You got Eli Apple and Duke Riley playing patty cake baker's man with ball carriers that end up taking it to the house. It's not just offensively. It's on both sides of the football here. We're playing two-hand touch in meaningful games, in big games. We got defenders playing two-hand touch. Let's call it what it is. I didn't like the game plan, and I'll rehash it. KC, you got 29 mile per hour wind gusts. It's minus 27 to match that. And you're throwing it behind the line of scrimmage. Right? And Tua's touching the throws. He's not driving through them behind the line of scrimmage. So what's happening? It's just playing havoc on your game plan. And then, we get down later in the game. You start forcing Tua to drive the ball downfield, and what happens? Other than a few miscues, Tua looked much better driving the ball outside the numbers down the field late in that game than and even when you asked him to do it in the first three quarters, than he did throwing behind the line of scrimmage. Right? Like, instead of just going head on into the fire, we're trying to play this, we're trying to dance around it. Come to late December into January again, what happens? Mostert, as bulked up as he's been all year, body broken down. Devin Achane, first year he's ever dealt with injuries in his career as a football player. Never had injuries at Texas A&M. Learning his body. Jeff Wilson, barely used him. Why did we activate Chris Brooks? Like, what was the point of activating Chris Brooks? Chris Brooks was one of the hard-nosed guys that could have pounded the rock in those meaningful games, but you activated him and you didn't even use him. So, I could say from coaching to players on both sides of the ball, is that really far-fetched, what's being said? And this is perfect example. This is it too, bro. Listen, Wilkes, do you think anyone fears Christian Wilkins? As dominant as we've seen him be at times, do you really and I've said this before, do you really think people fear Christian Wilkins? They know he's a joker. They know he jokes around. Look at Josh Allen. He's been trying to get into Josh Allen's head for how many years, and Josh Allen basically laughs him off. And I'm not even just exaggerating. He literally laughs him off. Josh Allen literally laughs him off. Like, just literally, whatever. Even when he hits him, whatever. Doesn't take him serious. I mean, listen. And it's on both sides of the ball, man. It really is. I think it's something we've talked about. It's something we've talked about Derrick Henry maybe being added here. Why? We want to be more physical. We want to be smash mouth. One of the things I liked about Anthony Weaver, bringing over that no-nonsense culture from Baltimore. Listen, y'all want to run a clubhouse when you're off the field and everyone wants to be buddy-buddy and everyone wants to pat each other's heads and rub each other's backs? That's fine. But on the field, you better be a goddamn dog. You better be a dog. When that whistle blows, you better be able to eat someone's lunch and take him to the woodshed. When was the last time Miami had two 1K running backs? Achane was 200 yards away from 1K and missed 5 games. Not physical? Yeah. We weren't as physical as we were, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you 15 seconds. What's the common denominator when I tell you that Mostert didn't have a 100-yard plus game rushing the football in the past couple months, and Achane wasn't running as freely in those last couple months when he was healthy? I brought this up all season. What's the common denominator? Because we did lose physicality. Thank you, Charles Hill nailed it. Isaiah Wynn is what you mean, but Isaac Wynn is what he said. Isaiah Wynn is who he's talking about. Isaiah Wynn was the common denominator. I said this when we lost him. I said it a few weeks after we lost. Dude, a few weeks after we lost him against Philly, I wasn't waiting until the end of the season. Literally 2 weeks after we lost him to Philly, that was one of the first things I noticed was the lack of physicality in the offensive line was impacting our run game. We weren't breaking off the huge runs as much and as consistently anymore. Because I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. You go add Jackson Powers-Johnson or Zach Frazier or Cedric Van Pran, okay? And you bring back Isaiah Wynn on the cheap and hopefully he can stay healthy, and you bring back Robert Hunt, we're going to move the football in the interior. We're going to move it real well, too. But I think some of our physicality was lost to injuries. I don't think this is just, we are finesse, we're soft from the opening. No. Go ask the Denver Broncos when we had our whole offensive line. The only game we had all 5 starters start. Go ask if we were physical in the trenches in that game. So I'm just, listen, you got to keep building off of it. I think if he can stay healthy, Isaiah Wynn and Robert Hunt are two very strong answers to changing the physicality of the trenches, at least offensively. Now, Wilkins is probably going to walk. So fill in some no-nonsense. Go get me a defensive tackle for $7 or $8 million to complement Sealer, who's playing for another contract, and that's no nonsense. That's about their business. And the problem is when the physical guys we do have, when they get hurt, we don't have the depth. We don't have physicality in our depth. We got none. Liam Eichenberg ain't physical. Even our two tackles. What was my biggest issue with, and we started seeing from Austin Jackson, you started seeing it before he got hurt this year. People want to knock Austin Jackson at the end of the year. He had no oblique tear. That's why you saw Austin Jackson fall a little bit when you watch the film. The guy had no oblique tear. But you watch him before that, what was I seeing from Austin Jackson that I'd been demanding for years? The guy looked like Tarzan and played like Jane. This year, you saw the Tarzan come out. You saw Austin Jackson getting nasty a little bit in the trenches. I would highlight it in pass pro all the time when I would see it. So I saw the physicality. I think that's from playing next to Robert Hunt a little bit, right? Taron Armstead isn't exactly the most physical, he's not going to physically impose his will on you, but, he's a damn good technician. He can overpower you, but you know what I mean? No one looks at him as like, oh, he's a nasty guy. He comes off as a guy who does his work in the trenches. And then, Chubb and Phillips. They're hard damn workers. I think they were on their way to intimidating a lot of offenses this year. Both got hurt. And then you go to linebacker core. Okay, in the run game, David Long intimidates the hell out of you. In the pass game, no. Jerome Baker don't intimidate you in either one. Now, Javon Holland can be intimidating. Give him that. Jalen Ramsey can be intimidating. X, when he's healthy, can be intimidating. Kader Kohu was not intimidating this year. He's getting taken to the woodshed week by week. For the most part. We got to change this whole perception that, it's sunshine, sandy beaches, and lollipops in Miami. And we got to put on this we got to make it known that if you come to Miami, you ain't going to have no time to suntan because you're going to be in a hotel room licking your wounds and healing your bruises from the beating we just gave you. That's what needs to change in Miami. So, Franklin says, reason, do you think McDaniel is waiting until after the Super Bowl to fire Crossman to hire an assistant special teams coordinator on one of the teams? Listen, now that this is done, now that Anthony Weaver's been hired, I said this, I would have pulled the Band-Aid from Danny Crossman. What worries me, though, is when you go back, they fired the assistant special teams coach. It feels like they passed the buck. And that was, they fired, that felt like they passed the buck to me. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, here we go. Right? They fired Brendan Farrell, who was the assistant special teams coach. And then they fired 3 offensive assistants with that. Colby Smith, Ricardo Allen, and Mike Judge. But Brendan Farrell, the assistant special teams coach, it felt like he fell on the sword. Why would you fire an assistant but not the main coordinator? So my hopes are not up. My hope is not large that we're going to see a replacement. Shout out to Ender Fireplays YT for their 5th ever super chat on a live stream. Appreciate that $10 donation. So yeah, with Crossman, they've already fired an assistant. I don't know if I see it happening. Listen, Drake May's my number 1 quarterback in this draft. He's been my number 1 quarterback in this draft. We don't have enough assets to move up and get Drake May. They're not trading for Drake May. Okay? They're not moving up and trading for a quarterback. It's not happening. A, they don't have the assets right now. And B, they're about to pay Tua. They're not moving up for a quarterback. And there ain't no bigger Drake May fan than me, but you don't even know what you got yet. He hasn't even played an NFL snap. Tua just led the league in passing yards. Stop acting like he finished in the bottom half of the league in passing yards. Absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, I don't know if you guys heard Merrill Hodge. He was ripping on Caleb Williams today and saying the Bears shouldn't even draft him. Saying Caleb Williams is not special. Caleb Williams is not the next Patrick Mahomes. See, and this is the biggest lie ever. If it's that true, with this offense, most would lead the league in passing, I ask you this question. In 2022, when Tua Tagovailoa went down, why did Jalen, in all the games, Tua Tagovailoa was out, I believe it was about 5 or 6, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek didn't catch one single touchdown pass. Not one. Tua was out for about 5 or 6 games in 2022, and not Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson could get Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill in the end zone. So no, not any quarterback can come in and do it. Kurt Warner himself on Twitter said, and I quote, "Not many NFL quarterbacks can come into Miami and do what is asked of Tua Tagovailoa." That's literally what he said. Kurt Warner. The same person that people have tried to twist his words around when he was talking about concepts and Mike McDaniel into taking shots with Tua. That's just what the deal is. So, no, not any quarterback can come in and do what Tua does. That is what it is. But people don't want to have that conversation. So, listen. I'm not sitting here even justifying anything, but the reality is, all right, Tua Tagovailoa had a 105.5 passer rating, which was first in the NFL last year. Teddy had an 85.6 and Skylar had a 62.2. Teddy was 25th in the NFL. Skylar was 62.2, was 47th in the NFL. All 3 quarterbacks had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Just saying. So, no, it's not as plug and play as these people who couldn't evaluate your latest bowel movement try to make it out to be. This is not Madden. It is not Madden. And I'll give you another thing. Waddle's yards per game when they went out. Waddle's yards per game dropped from over 80 yards to under 60. There was an over 20-yard drop in Waddle's yards per game when Tua went out and when Teddy or Skyler was in. So, yeah, it's not as cut and dry as people try to make it out to believe. So let's get into this. A lot of stuff happening down the way in Vegas this week. So let's start off. You know what? Let's start off with the NFL honors because it'll lead into what I want to talk about here. All right. So, okay. Well, this guy's gone. So, listen, let's get into this. Here we go. So let's talk about the Comeback Player of the Year award. Let's start off there. Why not? So this was the voting for the Comeback Player of the Year award. Joe Flacco, right? You see the 5-3-1 scoring. That's 5 for first place, 3 for second, and 1 for fourth. So Joe Flacco had 8 less first place votes than Damar Hamlin, but because he had 26 second place votes, he ended up beating out Damar Hamlin for Comeback Player of the Year. Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, and Tua Tagovailoa rounded out the top 5. Now, this is where I have issue. All right, first things first. Let's say this. Damar Hamlin probably should have won. Damar Hamlin the guy died on the field. All right? Listen, do I think his play was he did nothing. He wasn't impressive. But the guy just returned. The guy just, literally died on the field and came back. So, let me get out of the way. Hamlin should have won. All right? But if playing at a high level is a requirement, right? Because remember, this voting is only up until the final week of the season. Playoffs do not count in this voting. I want everyone to remember this. All right? So, keep that in mind. The playoffs, that doesn't matter. None of that matter. And we all saw how it went for Flacco in the playoffs. Y'all thought Tua was bad. Flacco threw 2 pick sixes, please. So here's my thing. It should have been Tua. If play and level of play played a part in this decision, I mean, how does Baker Mayfield and Joe Flacco have more first place votes than Tua? Joe Flacco got his ass up off the couch and came and played. Baker Mayfield was just being bumped around in bad situations. The AP votes on this, the Associated Press. The same people who were telling all of us Tua should retire. The same Tua had a better year statistically, and his team had a better record than Baker Mayfield. Joe Flacco played in 5 games up until the Ravens lost. Tua was in the MVP conversation, so that's up until week 17. That's 16 weeks of being in the MVP conversation. And explain to me how this works. This is not a most improved player award. Go read the definition of what this award means. This is an award for someone who comes back from adversity, a severe injury, something of that level. This is not a most improved player award. It's not. So go create a most improved player award if that's what you want to do. First of all, Damar Hamlin should have won this award. No one faced as much adversity on a football field than that guy. If you aren't going to go Damar Hamlin and you're going to go off results based in terms of performance, then it's Tua. Y'all were telling us Tua should retire. Y'all were treating him like Trent Green with these concussions. How he should retire, blah, 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 blah. Then he comes back and leads the league in passing. Picking up right where he left off last year before he got hurt. And I'll do you one even better. If you remember, we covered it a few weeks ago. Tua Tagovailoa won the Sporting News Comeback Player of the Year, right? Let me read to you a portion of that article. Let me read a portion of that article to you, okay? Then, of course, there was Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who returned to the NFL to play in 2023 despite suffering an on-field cardiac arrest during the Bengals against the Bengals in Week 17 of the 2022 season. Hamlin played only sparingly, but the fact that he saw the field at all was a miracle considering NFL fans spent several days in January of 2023 wondering whether he would survive his medical episode. All of these players were certainly worthy candidates, but it was Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa who won Sporting News' 2023 NFL Comeback Player as voted on by players, coaches, and executives across the NFL. He had 37.3% of the vote. Hamlin had 25.6%. Mayfield had 14.9%. Flacco had 1.2% of the vote from fellow players, coaches, and executives across the NFL. But he wins the Sporting News. The media was trying to tell us he needs to retire. The media was trying to tell us he'll never be the same. He comes back and he leads the league in passing. Listen, again, Damar Hamlin should have won this. But if you're not going Damar Hamlin and you're going results-based, then it's Tua. Because of the concussions and the performance he had this year. Even Joe Flacco himself said he didn't think he should have won the award. He thought it should have been Hamlin. If you want to make a most improved award, knock yourself out. But Flacco did not come back from adversity. Flacco did not come back from a severe injury. Damar Hamlin should have won the award. If you were going to put statistics into the decision in terms of someone coming back from adversity, then it should have been Tua. As you see, fellow coaches, players, and executives across the NFL, they believe the same thing I believe. And yes, rude awakening. So Tua does have the respect of his peers. 110%. Don't listen to what these people try to not tell you. And I'll show you a video in a bit here of some more respect he's got. So, absolute joke of an award. Absolute joke. I think Stafford deserves it more than Baker Mayfield. Look at the injuries Stafford put up with last year. And then he came back and helped LA get to the playoffs. I think Stafford deserves it more than Flacco and Baker Mayfield. And everyone knows I wanted Baker Mayfield last offseason. See, I see people are trying to make videos and try to start up a Baker Mayfield narrative. I did that last year. Baker Mayfield, I wanted him to come in here as competition for Tua because we didn't know if Tua would stay healthy. And if Tua couldn't stay healthy, I wanted Baker Mayfield to lead this team. All right? So I wanted Baker last year. Everyone knows I'm a huge Baker guy. But I'll say Stafford deserved it more than him after what Stafford got over from last year with his injuries. I will say Damar Hamlin, Tua Tagovailoa, and Matt Stafford in that order deserved it more than Joe Flacco and Baker Mayfield. I got no problem saying that. I'll tell that to Flacco and Baker Mayfield's face. They'll probably agree with me. I know Flacco will after what I heard him say. Again, Baker Mayfield did not come back from adversity. This is not a most improved player award. This is a comeback player of the year award. What's Baker Mayfield coming back from? Being traded around last year? What's Flacco coming back from? Getting off the couch? Too many potato chips? I can at least sit here and say Hamlin, Tua, and Stafford came back from different injuries. Scotty says, traded player of the year award. That's it. Best player to come back from a trade? Come on. Baker, again, this is not a most improved award. This is not a most improved player award. That's not coming. I never considered him done. I wanted him to come in last year. This is not a most improved player award. This is, go read. There's an actual definition for this award. Go read it. So I think that's absolute nonsense. Let me just say that. All right? Absolute nonsense. And if you go read what the award is about, it will say to you, the National Football League Comeback Player of the Year Award refers to a number of awards that are given to the National Football League player who overcomes adversity to return to remarkable performance. In the form of not being in the NFL the previous year, a severe injury, so on and so forth. And obviously there's the Associated Press one, the Pro Football Writers Association one, the Sporting News one, and United Press International have a comeback player. So there's like 4 different awards. So, again, Tua just led the league. Everyone told us he was concussed and he should retire, and then he comes back and lead the league. If you're going performance-based, it's Tua. If you're going by the adversity they overcame to get back on the field, it's Damar Hamlin. It's not even particularly close. And again, Stafford came back from a major shoulder injury last year, and look at what Puka Nacua did this year. Puka Nacua was setting rookie receiver records with Stafford while Cooper Kupp was on the team. Puka Nacua should have got more Rookie of the Year love. I just got to say that. So, man, I don't know. I don't know about that. Now, continuing on here, let's talk about this. This is a more little cut and dry for me. When you talk about, did Tyreek Hill get snubbed? Now, I think if he didn't miss time and wasn't banged up, he would have had a shot at 2K, and it would have been a different story. But Christian McCaffrey, 39 votes. 39 first place votes, right? Tyreek had 32 second place votes. CeeDee Lamb had 28 third place votes. So that was pretty unanimous. Now, again, the sporting news, what we just covered with Tua and how they gave Tua the Comeback Player of the Year award. So Tyreek Hill was the Sporting News Offensive Player of the Year. So that means his peers, so players, coaches, and executives across the NFL, they voted Tyreek Hill. I think where you start to kind of run into problems here, though, is when you get into the numbers. And, you look at Christian McCaffrey this year. I mean, guys, you're talking over 2,000 all-purpose yards. You're talking about 21 touchdowns. Compared to Tyreek Hill, who, he had, if you count his rushing, just over 1,800 all-purpose yards, and he had 13 touchdowns. So, we're talking about almost a 300-yard difference between him and McCaffrey in all-purpose, and then we're talking about like an 8-touchdown difference. So, I kind of agree that, Tyreek didn't get snubbed. I think Damar Hamlin got snubbed for Comeback Player of the Year, and if you're going to go for performance-based, then Tua got snubbed. But I think Damar Hamlin should have won that. And I think Christian McCaffrey, I think it was pretty fair. And again, I'm not being, everyone knows I love Christian McCaffrey, right? Since he's on Carolina, I've been saying on this channel, since he was back with Carolina, I've been saying he's one of the best football players in the NFL, not just running backs. And I agree I still believe that firmly. But, it is what it is. Christian McCaffrey had an incredible year. Incredible year. I actually think he should have been considered more in the MVP conversation. Right? Like, I think he should have had a little bit more love in that MVP conversation, if you ask me. He was incredible this year. I mean, what are you going to say about him? And, when you go to the MVP conversation, Christian McCaffrey was third behind Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott. And then Brock Purdy was fourth and Josh Allen was fifth. Tyreek was sixth in MVP voting. I think it should have been Lamar Jackson or Christian McCaffrey as your MVP this year. So, we'll see. It is what it is. So, speaking of the quarterback position, speaking of stats and everything, Deshaun Watson, he decided he was going to talk a little bit yesterday. I'll play the clip because the question going around is, was he taking shots at Tua and Brock Purdy?
Go throughout the different looks. All right, this, here. I never been a fan of that, just because I know the other team's going to adjust quick, and I got to adjust because they're not going to play me the same way like the other quarterback. They're not going to play me the same way like Brock Purdy. You feel me? They're not going to play me the same way like a Tua, because I can use my legs, I can run, I do a lot more movement in the pocket, things like that. So, like, for me, I think, like, the first half, like, I'm trying to figure it out, and, like, I start off slow. But once that third and fourth quarter come around, now you just calling your best plays. You trying to make some shit work, and you got to make, your playmakers got to make plays, especially in that fourth quarter.
Thinking pretty highly of yourself when your play was so bad this year. Joe Flacco came in, led that team to the playoffs out of the gutter with no Nick Chubb, and won an award he shouldn't even have won, Deshaun. You made Cleveland appreciate Joe Flacco after they gave you all that guaranteed money. You played 12 games the last 2 seasons. You haven't had a QBR above 40, above 43 the last 2 seasons, and above 75 since 2017. Now, he was great in 2020. He threw for 4,800 yards. The QBR was 63.7 that year. But he was good that year. But, brother, you had weapons in Houston. You had DeAndre Hopkins in his prime. You had Brandon Cooks. You had Will Fuller when he was actually good. Now you've got Amari. They went out and got you Amari Cooper. You've had Nick Chubb when he's healthy. Jerome Ford stepped up behind him. You have David Njoku, who's become one of the best tight end threats. You've been given weapons. They've drafted receivers in Cleveland for you. And you've put up at a completion percentage of 58.2 your first year of Cleveland and 61.4. While you go down, Stefanski wins Coach of the Year without you. Flacco takes your job and wins Comeback Player of the Year. And what is this more movement of the? What do you do? Like, do you get outside the pocket? You know, I will say this right now. You don't have a better feel for the pocket than Tua or Purdy. Purdy and Tua are better passers than you are right now as well. So, this guy's thinking pretty highly of himself when you ain't done shit. In 12 games over the last 2 seasons in Cleveland, he's thrown for 2,217 yards in 12 games, 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. And has a completion percentage around 59 to 60%. You're not using your leg. This guy talking about how he used to use his legs. Getting you hurt a lot more. So, I mean, like, this whole notion, I mean, you know, like, that this guy thinks so highly of himself. I don't know what he's talking about, man. You got guaranteed $250 million, and it looks like the worst contract in not only football, but maybe professional sports. Maybe professional sports. Your contract is up. The ROI, return on investment, buddy, you might be a little bit better. Your contract might be a little bit better than when my Toronto Raptors signed Hakeem Olajuwon back in the 90s, all right? Go look what we got out of that contract. That's basically what Cleveland's getting out of him. So, sitting out here and saying, you know, defenses have to, he's basically implying defenses have to respect him and attack him better than what they would do to Brock Purdy or Tua Tagovailoa. That's what he's saying. When, brother, you aren't, ever since you stopped going to rub and tugs, you lost your mojo, kid. I don't know what to tell you. You aren't even the same guy you were in 2020. You're a shell of what you used to be. Stop. You ain't under Bill O'Brien and Houston Texans anymore, kid. You're out on your own, and it ain't looking good. So, I don't even got to defend Tua. Brother, you're not in the same stratosphere as Brock Purdy. Why are you keeping Brock Purdy's name in your mouth? That man's about to play in the Super Bowl. Have you ever done that? Have you ever done that? Oh, when was the last time you played a playoff game, and how'd that go? So, you know, I don't even know why he's bringing up and saying you gotta defend. He's basically implying that you got to defend him better and more attentively than guys like Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa, who will kill you with their arms. And we've seen through this run, Don't think Brock Purdy can't make plays out of the pocket. Hell, you want to talk about Tua making plays out of the pocket? Go look at every Jalen Waddle touchdown inside the red zone. 90% of them, Tua's getting outside the pocket and making the throw on the move. And and let's be honest here. Let's be honest here. That man hasn't won a playoff game in going on 5 years. He's 1-3 in the playoffs, and he hasn't been in the playoffs since 2019. He's 1-2 in the playoffs, and he ain't been in the playoffs since 2019. And you're going to sit up here and critique guys that are getting to the playoffs now, and one of them who's about to play in the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't even know what he's talking about. This guy's acting like he's Mike Vick. You're not even CJ Stroud. You are not even CJ Stroud right now. Just saying. So, So, I don't know where Watson gets off talking about Tua or Purdy. Brother, focus on your own game right now. Because it ain't looking good in Cleveland. You're about to get ran out of Cleveland. You're about to become one of the biggest what if and what could have been stories in football history. Worry about yourself. Seriously, worried about yourself. And I wish we got Cleveland in the first round, because after I could have beat the Cleveland Browns in the first round. Flacco handed that game to the Houston Texans. So, hey, if you would have stayed in Houston, you could have got an extra win, Deshaun. Too bad. Flacco out here throwing 2 pick sixes against the Houston Texans. Just saying. So, yeah, you would have had an easy win, Watson, if you would have, kept your towel on at the massage parlors. Continuing on, though, because it's just nonsense that he's even talking. Let's talk about King Henry, because King Henry, he had something. He had something interesting to say, and this is a weird way of telling us you want to come to Miami, brother. But hey, I'm here for it. Tyreek Hill was going around asking questions, and this is what he said. And watch Tyreek Hill's face for some of these answers.
Okay, 3 guys here at the Pro Bowl you're taking camping with you, and why? Just quick whys.
3 guys. Let me see. I'm gonna take Minka. Take Tua. And I'm gonna take James Cook. James got speed.
So you're not gonna take me? I got speed.
I ain't gonna take you. You're gonna outrun everybody. I need somebody I can keep up with.
You gotta catch him in the right place.
I'm gonna take them 3.
Okay.
We're gonna survive.
Okay.
We'll pick it out. Minka's smart. Tua quarterback, he's smart. Me and James, we can handle everything else.
Who's harder to tackle, me or you?
Oh, me. Me.
In open field.
Me every time. He can just outrun everybody. He fast, but it's me. Don't ever tell y'all different. Don't believe that.
All right, thanks, man. Derrick Henry, the king. All hail the king.
Honestly, man, I think it's real, bro. I think I listen. I think it's a real possibility that they're gonna sniff around that. You got to remember, they're gonna get out of Jeff Wilson's money, right? What if Mostert, something not a lot of people are talking about, go look at Raheem Mostert's contract right now. Go look at that right now. I got a feeling Raheem Mostert, after what he did last year, he's going to say, yo, you got to pay me. Because if you go look at his contract, I'm almost positive he has no guaranteed money left. Let me check. Double check here. He's got no guaranteed money, it looks like here. So he signed a 2-year, $5.6 million deal. He was guaranteed $2.2 million. That's the total guarantee. And that was given to him at signing. So he got his guarantee at signing. And he had a $1.3 million signing bonus. I mean, he's got a dead cap hit of $650,000 if you cut him. Because he's guaranteed no money. No money. I would not be surprised if Raheem Mostert says, I want some more money here. I'm not playing this season on, about $650,000 guarantee. With incentives, he can get up to about $3.36 million. And the same thing goes with Jeff Wilson. They can get out of Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert right now. And they would save about $2.7 million with Raheem Mostert if you get out of it. Now, I'm not saying get out of Raheem Mostert. I'm just telling you the numbers. If you get out of him, you get about $2.7 million. Guess what? If you cut Jeff Wilson Jr., you save $3 million. And you only have a $782,000 dead cap hit. So you save almost $6 million between releasing Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. That's Derrick Henry, $6 million right there. And then you ride with Derrick Henry, Chris Brooks, and Devon Achane. Then you bring back, you want to know this? Let me ask you this. What would you want? Let me ask you this. Let's say Christian Wilkins wants $24 million. All right? Would you want Christian Wilkins for $24 million? Or would you want Hunt for like 12? Let's just put him at 12. Put him at the high end. Let's put him 12. Derrick Henry for 6. So now we're at 18. Isaiah Wynn coming back. We saw how good and dominant that run game was with him. For let's say another 2. We're at $20 million with 3 players. And we still got $4 million to play with that we haven't given Wilkins. That's a good depth piece right there at center or guard. Or that's half the money you could put towards someone to pair with Zach Seiler. I'm just saying. When you break down the financials, people are too strung up on paying Tua $50 million. Well, at least he just led the league in passing. Christian Wilkins, we're paying a guy who's given us similar production for half the price. We don't have a guy on the roster in the quarterback room that's led the league in passing for half the price of Tua. We got a guy half the price of Christian Wilkins right next to him. We got way too many holes. Way too many holes. Over 300 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Way too many holes. So, interesting thing. I got 2 more things I want to go over with you guys. Check this article behind a paywall from Barry Jackson. Really puts things into perspective about the inside linebacker and the job I keep telling you guys that Joe Barry and Anthony Weaver, the job they have in front of them to get these linebackers right. Check this one out. So there are some problems that the Dolphins seemingly cannot solve through more than 2 decades of wandering aimlessly without a playoff win. Here's one of them. Finding a way to keep their linebackers from being torched in coverage. Josh Allen, the quarterback of the team that Miami simply cannot vanquish, punished Miami's linebackers as usual in Buffalo's AFC East clinching Week 18 win at Hard Rock. 5 times Allen targeted David Long, who had a very good year against the run. 5 times the passes were caught for 33 yards. 4 times he targeted Duke Riley. 4 times the passes were caught for 53 yards. I mean, right there, that's 86 yards, right? 3 times Allen targeted Jerome Baker. 3 times the passes were caught for 15 yards before Baker sustained a wrist injury. So what he's telling you right now is just off targeting our 3 linebackers, you're talking about, you're talking about 103 yards on 12 targets. This has been a recurring nightmare with Buffalo, torching Miami by isolating running backs, tight ends, and receivers against Dolphin linebackers. Bill players have 5 touchdown receptions against Dolphins inside linebackers in 5 meetings during the past 18 months. In those games, Allen has a 138 passer rating, 46 of 52 for 491 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. When targeting Miami's inside linebackers, Baker, Riley, Long, Atlanta Roberts, who was there last year, he's lighting them up. Now, let's be clear. All across the league, inside linebackers are routinely victimized by good quarterbacks and pass coverage. But the Dolphins must figure out a way to be not quite as inept in that area, especially against Buffalo. Overall, again, in 2023, the big issue in the front seven was pass coverage. Long, exceptional against the run, was rated by far the worst of 83 inside linebackers in pass coverage. PFF gave him a brutal 29.8 grade. As a perspective, the player with the next worst coverage grade had a 37. Long permitted 42 of 53 passes thrown against him to be caught for 509 yards and a touchdown, equal to 113 passer rating in his coverage area. That 12.1 yards per reception, which was the worst among inside linebackers targeted at least 50 times and third worst among linebackers targeted at least 40 times. So most every time Long was targeted, the result was a first down for the offense. Long permitted 4 receptions and 4 targets for 90 yards in the playoff loss at Kansas City. Long was still a good signing because he gave the defense valuable grit and toughness, and as noted, was exceptional against the run. His 113 tackles were 38th most in the league and 29th amongst the linebackers. He was durable after dealing with soft tissue injuries in Tennessee. The Dolphins, though, had reason to believe he would be an upgrade over Landon Roberts in pass coverage. In his final 2 years at Tennessee before signing with the Dolphins, Long permitted 86.1 and 87 passer ratings in his coverage area. But there's a caveat with that. The primary reason for Long's strong passer rating metrics with the Titans, he had 4 interceptions while not allowing any touchdown passes during the past 2 years. This season, he allowed a touchdown but didn't pick off a pass. With a reasonable $4.5 million 2024 salary and $6.7 million cap hit, he's definitely worth retaining. But the new coordinator can't leave him exposed as much in coverage as Fangio did. For Baker, it's a mixed bag in coverage. The bad news, he's allowed 45 of 51 passes thrown against him to be caught, which was the second highest completion percentage against any NFL inside linebacker and better than only a Landon Roberts. Landon Roberts permitted a 91.1% of his targets to be caught. Baker was 88.2 per PFF. The good news on Baker, he had as many interceptions, too, as TDs allowed, too. He saved a touchdown with a goal line tackle on a Bills pass just before halftime of the regular season finale. And this was key. He permitted only 7.9 yards per completion, which was 4th best amongst NFL's 39 inside linebackers who were targeted at least 50 times. Riley, who filled in for Baker during 5 late season games, got good overall marks from PFF. But in pass coverage, he permitted 25 completions and 30 targets for 275 yards and a touchdown, equal to 116 passer rating in his coverage area. He has a $2.3 million salary, none of it guaranteed, and a 3.1 cap hit for 2024. Goodbye, Duke. Fangio smartly limited the number of times that his outside linebackers were in pass coverage. We'll see if new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver does the same. But per PFF, Jalen Phillips was targeted only once and allowed a completion for 9 yards. And Chubb, he allowed 4 catches and 5 targets, but just for 10 yards. Van Ginkel permitted only 5.2 yards per catch, 12 for 16 for 62 yards, and had an interception. Channing Tindall, the team's number 4 inside linebacker, ended up playing only 12 defensive snaps this past season after playing 9 as a rookie. Did he get discouraged? I'm fine, he said in December. Of course, anybody in the NFL wants to get out there, but I know I'm still learning, fitting into the system and learning. It has been a process, but a good process. Did Fangio give him any feedback? He tells me every so often to keep pushing. Fangio said Tindall has good athletic ability, but stopped there the last time he was asked to assess his game. Now, with Fangio gone to Philadelphia, Tindall will need to learn a 3rd defensive system in 3 years. Tindall was selected 102nd overall in the 2022 draft with the thought that he could become a good pass rusher. 2 coordinators have now concluded that he wasn't ready to help. The last time he had a significant role in a game when he was asked to spy Bears quarterback Justin Fields in a November 2022 game, he was quickly yanked by Josh Boyer. He'll get another chance to make his case, perhaps a final chance, this summer. I said it then, I'll say it again. Should have taken Leo Chanel, who went the next pick. That was my guy. But Listen. Yeah. I mean, you saw, look at, even David Long dipped massively in coverage this year. And you can't get beat. We saw running backs were just giving us the work. Gonna have to get better. Finally, guys, I was hit up by, shout out to Ann Nolan. I was hit up by Ann Nolan. Guys, 1972 perfect season team autograph motorcycle is up for a raffle. Head to e.givesmart.com and you can go check it out. You can buy raffle tickets. I'll put the link in the comments here. There are 5 available prizes for the raffle. A grand prize is a 1972 perfect season autograph motorcycle. Second prize, dinner for 4 at Joe Stone's Crab Dinner with Nat Moore, a special guest from the Dolphins Ring of Honor. Third prize is an autographed Dolphins Hall of Famer football. Fourth prize is a framed Dolphins Ring of Honor lithograph. And the fifth prize is an autographed 1972 perfect season football. So go support the cause. Go show some love to your Miami Dolphins. Go show them some love. The winner is going to be announced on February 11th. So you don't have much time to get in. So go check it out, man. That motorcycle, it's a thing of beauty. It is a thing of beauty. Obviously, you wouldn't ride it, but I mean, you go look at that right there. You got the 72 decal. And look at what they did. Footballs on the backrest. That's amazing. So it's hosted by the Miami Dolphins Foundation. All proceeds are going to go towards the Miami Dolphin Foundation. Go check it out. It's a good cause. And go show some love to the Miami Dolphins and have a chance to relive the 1972 season with a perfect season team autographed motorcycle. All right. Guys, I appreciate you coming through on a Friday. It's Super Bowl weekend. I may or may not be live on Sunday. It's all depending on I'm feeling a little under the weather. But if I am live, expect me on Sunday. We'll see how it goes. But smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. We're on our way to 15,000. We're a little over 800 away. Let's get there. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the love. You guys are the best. I love each and every one of you for coming through. Man, we're just getting started because next week we're going to have, it's probably going to start to pick up. You know I said to Neil, I didn't expect the deal to get done with Tua before the Super Bowl. They're not going to take that away. You know, they're not going to take away some glitz and glamour and talking points from Super Bowl week. They want the focus to be on the Super Bowl. And that's just what it is. So, listen, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. Appreciate each and every one of you. As always, fins up all day, every day. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Take it easy, guys.